Think about the last time that you were in a meeting that felt right on paper. The agenda was great. It was clear. We knew, hey, we're going to talk about this or that. But then you look around the room, virtually or in person, and you're like, are these the right people to be speaking for what's happening, to give me the ground truth, right? And most of the time this happens because the room is missing those people. They're missing the people that we're doing the project for, that we're going to positively impact by doing this work. So today on how to get the right people in the room so progress happens, I'm going to talk through how we can avoid this mistake, or if we find that we're causing this, to fix it. And I want us to focus on as well this quote from Peter Drucker that says, the most important thing in communication is hearing what is not said. So when you have your quiet folks in the meeting, don't take it as silence is permission. Take it as, I need to engage those folks more. Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Pannell. I'm the host of the People Process Progress podcast. Thank you for coming, for watching, for listening. If you're on Apple or Spotify or one of the other platforms, I'm talking about communication today, getting the right stakeholders in, more specifically, how to get the right people in the room so progress happens. So let's think about that quote I read in the intro, right? The most important thing in communication is hearing what's not said. And here's a challenge, right? We can have a room that's full, but the progress is missing. Healthcare, emergency response, IT, that's the worlds that I've lived in most of my life. I watched high-performing teams stall because they were shaped by hierarchy instead of by empowerment. And, people with authority were present, but maybe they didn't have the insight, the latest and greatest. It's one of the most common blind spots that we can have as leaders, is to not put the right people in the room and just leave them there and say, hey, we're here for you if you need my help, but I'm not going to be there looking over your shoulder. I trust you to make the decisions, to have the conversations, and do all the things that you should do as an empowered leader, particularly for project managers, program managers that we lead. And the challenge is not the meeting, right? The challenge is who we choose to bring to it or send on our behalf. So let's go through some actions to build the room that makes progress happen, right? So first, we're going to identify the real business owner. The business owner in projects is who's the person that can speak to what's happening in the real world, that's going to get this thing or this new process that we're doing this project for. That's who we need. Yes, we need sponsors that are higher level. Yes, we need executives that can sign for money or time or those kind of things. But we really need to know the ground truth from the business owner that owns that, right? Look for the person who carries the consequences. They understand the stakes. They feel the impact if it's successful or if it fails, which projects fail, right? Unfortunately. During a big project that I did, right, we couldn't move forward until we understood that, right? We were moving a whole bunch of web pages, and without this person's knowledge, we didn't know what the structure is and how things were done before, so that we could build on that and then put them into a new system and then work with the new vendors on how we build them in the new system and what's, worked and what's not. That was the true business owner that had that background, that knew the technical chops, right, of how we did things before, but also how we could do them in the future and tweak it a little bit with this new system. So the first thing we want to do is identify that real business owner. Second, let's map these influencers, not the hierarchy. And I like an org chart so we know who's who, but we want to know who are the core decision makers, right? Who are the key contributors? Who are the advisors that we need to bring in as needed, not just folks that are going to sit in the meeting and that, yep, sure, they may have power or delegated authority, but the room needs to be intentional, not just crowded, right? So we're going to map those influencers. We don't want to make our meetings fail, right, when the right person is not responsible or empowered to make decisions. And that's another thing too. So when you identify the real business owner and then we map who's the influencer, let's have that discussion with leaders too. Like, hey, what are the team authorized to approve on their own, right? And we're going to give, we're going to plan and get requirements and do all that kind of stuff. But we also need to know what are our limits, what are our guardrails. And so this mapping the influencers, we know that, let's say, for example, I'm empowered to authorize spend up to $5,000. Anything over that, I have to ask or get permission or whatever, right? That's a very simple thing. Or if we add 2 weeks, that's cool. If it's any more than that, come let me know and have the discussion. That's reasonable for any level, whether it's a program or a project. Next thing you want to do is balance their perspectives, right? Because I've mentioned and I'm emphasizing that we want to get the ground truth folks in there and the middle managers in there, but that doesn't mean that the leaders don't have a spot at the table, right? They approve this thing that we're going to do, and we need them, and we need their insight and their guidance, right? We need the business owner who owns the outcome, a technical expert, right, who's going to say how we do it, whether that's internal or external folks. The workflow expert, which may not be the business owner, right? Might be an analyst, or in healthcare, a nurse, or in construction, the construction worker, somebody that knows, oh no, this is how we do things from end to end, so we can improve the process or put the right technology where it belongs. And then we do need sponsors, right? Because they are high-level folks that can remove barriers or move them, right? Whether it's a person barrier or a money barrier or a time barrier or all of those things. And that's where our sponsors really come into play. And the best leaders that I've seen are sponsors that say, here's what's approved, here's what I expect, here's my leader's intent, right? Pillar one from project management. And then you all go and you're empowered to make these decisions. Step 4, we want to set clear expectations before the meeting, right? So before you even get in there, we want to make sure that everybody knows that here's what we need, right? Here's why it matters, and here's the role that you will play today in each of your respective areas. It's a very simple thing in thought. Some folks aren't comfortable kind of pointing folks out. We have so-and-so that's going to be responsible for this. This is where, for me, having that org chart and you pull it up and you talk through it. Here's who's who. Is that right? Does it make sense that they own this thing? You can do the whole RACI chart thing if you want, but for me, an org chart covers all of that and good discussion and relationship building. So the purpose is, right, to create productive conversations based on the clear expectations that everybody has from the meeting. Because you all know, you've been in meetings and you're like, here's our agenda. And then the discussion goes like this. So that can happen sometimes, and sometimes as a facilitator, we need to let that go down a certain road, but we don't get completely off track to the core mission that we're trying to accomplish, the core project, the outcome, the definition of done, the objectives, all that good stuff, right? Step 5 is protect the room, right? So some folks attend for visibility, perhaps. We want folks that are going to be there to actually move us forward. We don't need a whole bunch of people when a quarter of that number of people will get the job done well. Right. And that's just kind of simple meeting management. You can do simple things like not allow your meetings to be forward. You can say, ask me if you want to add or subtract people. That's a very administrative, technological way to do it. But I think just having conversations, and what I found helpful is to say, who do you want to be part of this team when I talk to the resource managers? And do you want me to copy you on these things or just invite them? And I encourage us to have minimal people so we can be more productive than to have a whole bunch of people. And I also commit to keeping leaders informed as well, right? And that's a huge thing. So they appreciate, right, leaders when we keep them informed, and then still protect the purpose of the meeting so they know the time their people are spending in the meetings that we put together is productive and it's moving us forward. They're not just in there wasting time, or we're not wasting their time, right? So when we protect that room, we also protect the progress that we're trying to make. So when we have the right people in the room, we get the right voices that join the discussion, right? We get risks that surface early. We get decisions that are sped up because we're having conversations and it's folks that are familiar with it. We don't have to go, oh, I don't know, let me take notes and then come back to it. Confusion clears up, right? There's less confusion because we've all the team, and that's technical and operational and whoever you need in there, not just, a bunch of different meetings. And that has its place as well. I'm talking about kind of collaborative things. And engagement improves, right? When people notice like, oh, I can be engaged and I can open and they value my opinion and they take it into account, right? They're not expected to just sit there and be quiet. And the good thing about us as, leaders, as program managers, project managers, directors, whatever, is that we can empower our folks to know, hey, when you go do this thing and we ask you to be part of this project, you're the one, right? You're the one that represents us. If you're not comfortable, if you have problems, if you have questions, if it's not going well, then come to me for sure. I'm here. I'm not just throwing you out there, but we clearly want to set that expectation that we put the right people in the room, and those people then are empowered to whatever level they're empowered to, right? Because what I found, particularly in the military and public safety, and then in the private sector, is title doesn't create progress, right? The people do. Just because I'm manager something doesn't mean, that I can do more unless I have that experience than someone who's not a manager or director or VP or whatever, right? Particularly in public safety, you see there's a lot of collar brass that shows up in different things. They're not necessarily the experts in a certain area where someone is working. So it can be a challenge to lead that discussion. So when the leaders do listen, though, to what's being said, they'll discover, who needs to be invited, who needs to be there, what's the tempo, that kind of stuff. So let's think about how we can apply this in the real world, right? Look at one project that you're involved in. Write down the names of the people, right, that are shaping the decisions, and then ask yourself, who owns the outcome, who understands the work at a deeper level, and then who's missing? Who don't we have that we should have, right? Do we have a whole bunch of high-level folks that can't answer these questions? Or do we have not enough high-level folks that can clear barriers for us? Find the right mix, right? And the good thing is you can change who's in the meeting as you go along. You're like, oh, now the meeting needs to focus on this. We need less people. It's technical. It's analyst focus. And now we need higher level people for decisions because we need more money. So you just ebb and flow the way that you do your meetings, and that's it. But to really optimize what you're doing, right, when we want to get the right people so that progress happens, we want to know the business owner, who's the real business owner. We want to map who the influencers are. We want to balance perspectives. We want to set clear expectations before the meeting, who's doing what we expect of each person, and then protect the room. Don't just let it fill up like an auditorium full of people that aren't contributing. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, for watching this video. I don't do a lot of videos like this, so your feedback's welcome. Go to peopleprocessprogress.com. That's where you can connect with me. On LinkedIn, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at PannellKG, Pannellkg. We've also got the YouTube channel where you can see workout videos, cold plunges, jiu-jitsu after action reports. Also buy the books, The Stability Equation. If you're feeling off, if you need some help to figure out how you can take ownership, practice mindfulness, get movement, set boundaries, make connections, optimize your sleep, and explore your faith, reconnect with it, then that's the book for you. I wrote it when I was in a really tough spot. And through me putting in the work in each of those areas, I also cite a bunch of different books that are very helpful, that I found really helpful. Also, the People, Process, and Progress of Project Management, very practical. It's not going to get you ready for the PMP exam, but it will get you ready to lead projects in the real world. So they're both on Amazon. They're both available. This podcast obviously is on YouTube if you're watching, or Apple, Spotify, whatever platform you're listening on. So thank you so much for listening. Remember to keep people first, keep your process aligned, and let's make progress together. Godspeed, y'all.